Class is officially in session. One of the greatest misconceptions that I see online and when I get messages from people is that in order to pursue your education, you need to be at an academic institution. So many of us have spent countless thousands of dollars, taken on debt in order to pursue our passion for education and for research. And this video is all about helping you develop the tools in order to not do that. It is all about learning and research as a leisure activity, as a hobby, or even as a pursuit, whether that be a long-term professional pursuit that you would really like to see your work published, but it can also be something that you're pursuing just because you simply enjoy it. This is how to become an independent researcher. So first and foremost, I want to go ahead and actually define what an independent researcher is, because oftentimes I see that people really want to pursue their education. I've worked with students one-on-one who really love research, who love history, literature, classics, language, whatever it may be, and they really want to pursue it. But I think that there is a difference between a research hobbyist and an independent researcher. And I mean by that is somebody who really loves the act of learning, of pursuing different interests, of learning new things about different subjects, who may have a fixation on a particular time period or subject, but that may be subject to change. I would say that you are valid in being an independent research hobbyist, which is where you are developing your own curriculum, where you are pursuing your interests, but not remaining within a rigid subfield. Now, an independent researcher, I would say, is somebody who takes it a bit more seriously and professionally, which means that they are really looking to develop research-based writing. Now, that isn't to say that the hobbyist isn't somebody who's also going to develop some writing, but the independent researcher is somebody who is seeking to get their work published. They're looking to actually engage in the field and potentially pursue some form of academic validation, whether that be through professional conferences, peer-reviewed publication, or even trying to develop a full nonfiction book. Over the past 4 months, I've actually been leading a course with my friend Kate. This is called the Researchers Course. It's a 4-month program where we've actually helped independent researchers that are likely people that are interested in returning to school, but who need a written sample or who are just pursuing independent research for its own sake, and helping them develop the research skills so that way they can actually submit to a conference or try to move towards peer-reviewed journal publication. And so a lot of what I'm sharing in this video is actually based on my experience leading that course with Kate, but also from the position of somebody who is in academia, who is interested in doing independent research on my own when I complete my degree. I think that research and pursuing one's education, whether you're at an academic institution or you are not, is something that is worthwhile. It should be celebrated and it should be supported. In this video, we're going to follow 3 steps. Step 1 is getting started. Step 2 is creating a syllabus, and step 3 is writing. Now, if you're a hobbyist, I would say that you're probably going to pursue steps 1 and 2. However, you may want to dip into step 3. But if you're an independent researcher looking to actually get your work out there, then I would say that this video is a perfect kind of general outline of the steps towards that goal. Let's go ahead and get started with step 1. Step 1 is about experimentation. If you are somebody who has always loved learning, you were somebody that was a good student, but you can't really pursue a degree because of cost or other personal life circumstances, this is where you begin to identify your interests by looking at documentaries, of looking at online courses, looking at different readings, as well as potentially joining a group of other independent researchers at this in order to begin communicating your findings and talking about resources that you've identified so that you can share it with others. Furthermore, this is also the collection stage. So I want you to go ahead and actually grab a piece of paper or a journal and begin thinking about all of the different interests in history, in literature, in science, in mathematics that you've had throughout your life. So what types of questions have always been intriguing to you? As a historian myself, I've always been really interested in the 17th and 18th century, especially in the English American colonies, especially in North America. And that is actually what led me to pursue graduate studies and my research. But in addition to my interest in the 17th century English Atlantic, I'm really interested in African American history, especially African American women's history. I also am very fascinated by the Titanic and the Gilded Age. stage. So those are the couple of things that I would have written down if I were at this stage alongside you. So if you were an American millennial, then you may have read American Girl doll books or other historical fiction novels as a child. I recommend just looking back on some of those titles and the subjects that they covered, just writing those down just to see if it's something that you would like to continue looking into. I have a friend who was really interested in ancient Egypt as a child, and she ended up going and studying Egyptology. She now works in museums, but she's still very fascinated by ancient Egypt, and so she does independent research on her own. Furthermore, there's a member of Accepted Society. Her name is Lainey. She is a construction worker by day, and she is a Salem witch trials historian by night. When she joined Accepted Society 5 years ago, I remember her telling me that she was really interested in studying the Salem witch trials, and I pointed her to some secondary literature that I was looking at as an early Americanist that I thought would be helpful to her. And that is why I think it's really important at this collection and experimental stage to also be in communication with others that have similar interests, because they may be able to point you to resources, readings, courses that may be of further interest. That is when we actually reach stage 2, which is creating your syllabus. Now, this is a concept that I've seen all over social media of creating your monthly syllabus. And this can be something that is quite creative. It can be focused on the various hobbies that you really want to put time into. But in the case of this particular video and becoming an independent researcher, I want you to actually look at the way that syllabi are structured and create a 3 to 4 month long syllabus. Now, this is to help get you familiar with a specific subfield, whether that's early modern literature or Black feminist theory. This is how it is that you're going to structure your time, because one of the things that I have seen independent researchers struggle with the most is having a lack of structure. The reason we often think about returning to school when we want to pursue our academic interests is because there is a set syllabus, there's a structure, there is a rule book by which to follow and begin developing your learning. Now, you're going to go ahead and create that on your own. But you're going to go ahead first and look for a rubric, looking for a bit of a format. And the way that you can do this is actually going to courses at whatever university is nearby and just looking at their syllabi. Most of these things are publicly available. For example, you can go to courses.yale.edu, see all of the courses that are being offered from the previous semesters, and go ahead and look at their syllabi. You can download them so that way you can see what types of readings were assigned, the types of writing assignments that were added, and begin structuring your syllabus around this. Because it's your own, you can also structure it around holiday or other things that you have planned in your personal life, so you don't have to be on for 15 weeks like we do in the standard educational semester. You're going to want to structure it in such a way that you have a couple of readings that are due each week, and that maybe you have an accountability partner or something that you do or attend in order to keep up the cadence. Accepted Society is my business that I started 5 years ago. It is an online community for academics and lifelong learners. We have 500 people from all over the world. They attend study sessions together. There are also common room events where people can get together to talk about their varied interests. You can also start an independent researchers group, because you can go ahead and host your own events in Accepted, so that way you can meet and connect with new friends. One way that I've seen members of Accepted do this, and one way that I'm going to encourage them to continue, is to actually form a support group of people that are going to work through their syllabus together. You can do this as a team, whether you guys are all going to work together through the same syllabus, or you can create your independent syllabi and then meet up each week to discuss the readings that you've gone through and the goals that you've achieved. As an independent researcher, the one thing that you're going to struggle with is access. Oftentimes, academic articles are guarded behind a paywall. Recommendation for independent researchers is to develop a relationship with a library, whether that be a university library by getting a reader's card. Most of the public universities across the world have access to independent researchers. If you are looking to use their special collections, or if you're looking to actually go into their libraries, you can get a reader's card, or you can go to your own public library, and sometimes they actually have contracts and deals with these journals in order to access the material. Furthermore, if there's a journal that you know that you're citing a lot, my recommendation is also to become a member of that organization. This is going to be helpful for conferences and things in the future, but it might also give you access to their entire catalog of PDF journals. For example, becoming a member of the Alejandro Institute of Colonial Studies. It's an organization of American historians who work on colonial America. And if you're a member, then you get access to all of the William and Mary quarterlies. And it's one of the most cited journals that we have access to as colonial Americanists. Another thing to note about the syllabi is that you don't have to make it 4 months. It's just to follow the general semester, so that way you can work alongside others that are currently in school. But you can also make just a single month-long syllabi if you want to be able to explore new subjects. It's just a way to add structure to your research. And finally, we have step 3, which is actually writing up your research. Now, this is a stage that might not be of interest to everyone. Writing is a practice that you have to invest a lot of time and effort into. And if you are wanting to research as a hobbyist, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that being able to say, you know, I am somebody who really loves learning, who loves learning new subjects, who loves exploring, is something that should be celebrated and should not be something that is demeaned. But if you are somebody that would like to publish your work, to be part of the conversation in that subfield, these are a couple of recommendations. First and foremost, I recommend actually adding written assignments as part of your syllabus, whether that's doing 500-word write-up after each week, or it's doing a 5 to 10 page long paper every month after you've gone through some of the readings, or if it's a longer assignment, I recommend embedding that into your syllabus so it's part of your structure. However, if you are somebody that is neurodivergent and needs a little bit of external validation and a little bit of external support, I recommend also joining an accountability group. I've mentioned this several times throughout this video. I personally think that having accountability groups, having support, and having other people that are going through a similar journey to you is so important as an independent researcher. Once again, recommend using something like Accepted. However, you don't have to use this if it's not for you. You can also look to develop support groups by going on Facebook or finding people in your community or that are linked to the continuing education department at a local university. There are so many options, but I recommend having some kind of external validation source or external pressure, so that way you can actually develop that writing. Another way that you can get your writing out there is to begin by applying to conferences. I think that conferences are the easiest way for independent researchers to begin engaging in their field, because when you go to do a call for paper, you can either apply as a panel, so you can apply with other researchers, whether that's people currently in academia or people that you've connected with at previous conferences. You can also sometimes apply as an independent researcher just with one paper, and you can go ahead and submit by sending in an abstract. Oftentimes the abstracts are between, I would say, like 300 to 1,000 words, and then you're going to be asked to present your research in about a 15-minute presentation, which in my experience is about 10 to 12 pages of text. This is just a really good goal for you to work towards, because it's a nice way to enter into the field, enter into the dialogue without it being super rigorous in terms of peer review. Another option for getting your work out there is Substack, or creating some kind of blog. Now, my recommendation for using Substack is just that it has wider distribution and it's easier for people to find your work, but it's a nice soft place to begin sharing and discussing your independent research without the need for there to be a specific word count or page count as you would if you were doing peer review. The third step to this is actually applying for a peer-reviewed journal. Now, this is very difficult, and I'm going to make an entire video on actually applying for peer-reviewed journals with your article. However, one thing that I will note is that I recommend going to a conference first and starting to get some feedback from that field, from people that are familiar with the literature itself and with the primary sources that you might be using, who are actively engaged in that conversation, just so that you are well aware of what's going on in the academy, because those are the people that are going to be reviewing your article when it goes for peer review. Now, that's all I'm going to say on peer-reviewed articles, just because it is a stage of the academic research process that many people are a little bit intimidated by, and I want to make sure that I spend a lot of time going through all of the details. But my first recommendation is applying to a conference and beginning to engage with other scholars in your field, even networking and beginning having conversations with people at your local university, whether that be graduate students or professors that are working in this field, just so that way you can begin to broaden your network and make yourself more aware of the discourse that is happening in the academy, because sometimes it is a little bit closed off. And lastly, I'm just going to reiterate the importance of community. I would have quit my PhD last year had it not been for the Accepted Society community. I think that having a place where you can go and discuss your ideas, where you can be encouraged by others in order to pursue your research is so important. But beyond that, we also have the researchers course. We run this 3 times per year. It's a 4-month-long course, and we are currently enrolling for our next cohort. The applications are due August 25th, so be sure to get your application in ASAP. It's a simple application. We just want to know a little bit about you, your research interests, so that way you can be a part of the next cohort where we are going to be exploring your research and helping you develop a written sample, whether that be for applying to graduate school, applying for your first conference, or taking a piece of work that you've been working on for a while and preparing it for peer review. We'll help you get in contact with people in your field. We'll walk you through primary source analysis, the act of writing, develop many friendships along the way. If you're interested, all of the information is going to be in the description down below. And if this cohort isn't quite the right timing for you, we're also going to be having one in the new year. So all of the information is going to be there. I hope that this video was helpful and encouraging for you. I so strongly believe that we need more independent researchers out in the world, and that we need people that are not intimidated by the academy, who can pursue their research because they love it. I got into academia because of my love of independent research. I started it when I was a child and continued it in community college, and it's the reason that I've continued on into my academic career. If it hadn't been for pursuing independent research just for the fun of it, I would not be here today. And so I'm very grateful for those that have encouraged me, and I am here to encourage you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that it was helpful, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, friends.